It's ghoulish. That's the only word that can explain Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sharing a private picture of their so-called private children, Archie and Lily, on their so-called private vigil to lay flowers at Princess Diana's grave for the first time.
Now that's Meghan and Lily, and I've taken the view for a long time that Meghan sees Lily as hers and Archie as Harry's.
That's like what's actually out in the world because of people creating hate. It's not just a tabloid. It's not just some story. You are making me scared.
I would now use Charles Spencer's words directly to describe the acts of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. You too are insane and ghoulish. You too have no respect for Princess Diana's resting place. And also all of us who have to put up with your constant briefings about privacy. And then you post the most intimate photos that we have never seen of members of the royal family unless they've been taken by paparazzi. Like, no, we don't want to see Meghan's ass cheeks, okay, while she's watching her children in the water. Please.
Hidden in Northamptonshire is a quiet lake that keeps one of the royal family's most emotional places separated from the rest of the world. And that separation was never meant to be symbolic. It was built on purpose. At the centre sits an island with no bridge leading to it. And that missing bridge is one of the most overlooked details in this entire story. Charles Spencer personally had it removed because he wanted a permanent barrier between his sister's resting place and everyone else. He even explained his reasons in writing, leaving no doubt about why the crossing disappeared. Charles Spencer said the lake existed as a shield against what he described as the insane and the ghoulish, while the thick mud surrounding the island created another layer of protection.
It's just terrible. They are so full of nastiness and getting their own feelings back on everybody. They don't care. I just don't understand how Harry could want to do this. This is for his mother, who he loves, so he says, and to turn it into a show is just beyond anything. And it's amongst all sorts of things that they've done in what they call their summer holiday, because I don't know what they're doing. Not a face do you see, not a face of these little ones. They're always back to the camera. And you just think, what are they doing? They're 5, 7. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Meghan does not show the children's faces, and so that therefore this is somehow their privacy is being protected. It's completely absurd, frankly, because what Meghan is doing by not showing the faces or by revealing them very slowly, by revealing side portions or half portions, is feeding what marketers call a curiosity gap.
It was designed so reaching that place would never be easy. And then, last Thursday, 11 photographs suddenly appeared on Instagram. Among them was one image that instantly raised a question almost nobody seemed interested in asking, even though it may be the most important detail of the entire story. Somewhere in the middle of them, a man and 2 very small children, photographed from behind, walking a long avenue of trees. Harry has a bouquet in his arms. So does the little boy. I have been sat with that image for 6 days. 6 days, and I keep landing in a completely different place from everybody else. Everybody else is arguing about taste, and honestly, I despair of the lot of them. Was it vulgar, too tacky by half, or a bit much even by her standards? The cheek of that whole conversation, frankly, when the far simpler question has been sat there all week untouched.
But I do think the timing is just odd. You know, it was dropped on a Thursday. Prince George's birthday was on Wednesday. On Thursday, people were still talking about the photos and still talking about Prince George's future when Meghan decides that's the appropriate day to drop photos of her children. So it is a little odd. It's a little just thirsty.
Charles, you are a legend of Fleet Street. Can you give us a ballpark figure of the value of a photograph of Meghan and the kids back in the UK, what would that go for?
Oh, six figures without a shadow. That's
Wow.
Megan's got her cell phone ready to go.
Yeah, but I mean, if you remember when Fergie, the former Duchess of York, got caught having her toes sucked in Saint-Tropez, those pictures went for £1 million. So you're talking about that sort of level.
Wow.
You're talking about that sort of level of payment. And it depends, you know, in the circumstances of how the pictures were taken.
Somebody had to carry a camera across that water. Somebody had to be given the keys, the code, the nod, the boat, whatever it takes to reach an island that a grieving brother deliberately made unreachable. So who let them in? The man who owns that lake has not said one word. Not on Thursday when the pictures landed. Nothing on Friday when half the world lost its mind. Silence right through the weekend. Still, nothing today. 6 days of silence. And the only thing sitting on Charles Spencer's own account is a black and white photograph of 2 children on a swing in 1966 and a pony called Teddy Tar in 1972. Right, let's go and find out why. Now, before we go anywhere near those flowers, I want you to sit with a number. The week before all this, one of Fleet Street's genuine old royal hands was put on the spot and asked what a photograph of Meghan and those 2 children back on British soil would fetch. He didn't even pause. 6 figures, straight out.
A total betrayal, having promised King Charles that their UK return would be private and discreet. The Sussexes have proved once again that they cannot be trusted. You cannot do business with these people. Now, it's my understanding that King Charles was very clear about the ground rules for the Highgrove House gathering, which I'm told was barely an hour in length. And the rules were very clear. No photos, no publicity, no interviews. Good luck with that. She had to show off. She had to flex her muscles. She had to send a very clear message. I am back. I'm the Duchess with a capital D, and I'm an English royal princess all over again. And this is just the beginning.
Earl Spencer has not stopped exploiting Princess Diana. The only reason why 99.99% of the people go to the tours at Althorp is because Princess Diana grew up there, but most importantly is she's buried there. Harry and Meghan have changed everything.
The comparison that came next made the whole situation even harder to ignore. The veteran royal reporter didn't hesitate for a second before reaching for the biggest benchmark he could think of. He had covered that story himself. When Fergie was photographed in Saint-Tropez back in 1992, those images reportedly sold for an astonishing £1 million. Keep that figure firmly in your mind because it makes everything that followed feel genuinely unusual. For the entire trip, the British press came away with absolutely nothing at all. No airport photographs, no motorway sightings, not a single long lens shot over a hedge, not one blurry frame of Meghan, the children, or even the vehicle that carried them to the visit. It was an operation so tightly managed that for once in the last 15 years, even the tabloid newspapers admitted it had been handled properly. That alone quietly challenges a story many people have heard repeated for the past 6 years.
I'm going to call this Project Diana. We've seen Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, using Archie and Lily now as part of the Sussex brand. But Diana's next. It's going to be a Diana documentary. Netflix will make it. They'll pay Harry and Meghan a lot of money for it. William will be furious because it will be made without his permission. It's his mother's too.
My crystal ball has turned out to be true so far. In a couple of weeks, maybe 2027, Meghan Markle is going to come out with a limited edition Princess Diana as ever candle. Okay, I hope when she drops the Princess Diana candle, it actually has a wick. Okay, Prince Harry, he's wickless. He has no wick. She's witless. This is absolutely on another level. Like, did she go and sprinkle flower sprinkles at Diana's gravesite? I won't be shocked. Is that the next Instagram video that we're gonna get?
Doesn't it? A family that was often described as unable to move anywhere in Britain without relentless attention managed to fly in, travel across the country, meet with the king, spend 2 nights on a private estate, and leave again without a single photographer catching them. So privacy was clearly possible for that family all along. It simply was not always the most useful option. Then Instagram was opened, and suddenly the moment was shared for everyone to see, free of charge. Honestly, stop and think about what that tells you. Nobody gives away what could be considered a 6-figure image simply out of generosity. You do it because the photograph can achieve something that money alone cannot. You do it because the real value was never just capturing the moment. It was the message behind it. Whatever that message was meant to be, it was never simply about a summer visit. It hinted at something much bigger than a family holiday. Now let me tell you who Charles Spencer really is, because the coverage over the past fortnight has quietly pushed the idea that he was merely standing on the sidelines. That picture does not really fit the facts. This is a man who has managed that island for 29 years like a private fortress that just happens to have a gift shop attached. When Netflix approached him about filming scenes at Althorp for The Crown, he turned the request down without hesitation. He even said so publicly, and his response made it clear he considered the proposal unworthy of serious discussion. He has also spoken openly about 4 separate attempts over 2 decades to gain access to his sister's resting place. 4. Every single one was stopped. That is why the water remains, and that is why the bridge disappeared. It was never simply about sentiment. It was about security. Charles Spencer has never been naive, never been easily persuaded, and never underestimated what some people might try in order to get close to that place. And then, during the second week of July, he opened the gates and welcomed them to stay. That decision immediately raised fresh questions because the story making the rounds was that one clear rule had been laid down before any of it happened. One condition reportedly stood above all the rest: no cameras allowed. If that account is accurate, then what happened afterward becomes even more surprising. Whether that instruction came from the king or from the earl, one part of the story deserves a much closer look. And interestingly, it was an American journalist who first pointed out the gap that many others seem to overlook. If no cameras truly meant no cameras, then it also meant no film crew, no production van, no lighting equipment, and no sound technician. Yet nobody ever said a single word about a mobile phone sitting quietly in somebody's pocket. A phone clearly made its way across that water. We know it did because everyone has now seen what came back from that journey. So which version makes more sense? Did Charles Spencer agree to it, only to find himself facing 2 weeks of national criticism he never expected? Or did he refuse, only to discover those photographs on Thursday at exactly the same time as everyone else? I honestly do not know. But I would very much like to hear the answer from him, because his silence has become one of the biggest parts of this entire story. Every day, without an explanation, only leaves more room for speculation. Now, we arrive at the detail that has stayed with me more than anything else, and strangely, very few people seem willing to say it out loud. Meghan is not in that photograph. Look at it again. She simply is not there. What you do see is Harry, a 7-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl, and 2 bouquets of flowers walking along a path that Diana's brother intentionally made difficult for visitors to reach. Harry understands exactly why that bridge disappeared. In fact, he understands it better than almost anyone watching this story unfold. In his own memoir, using his own words, he explained that the bridge had been removed to protect his mother's privacy and keep intruders away. The purpose could not have been clearer. He published that account himself, and it was read in dozens of languages around the world. There is another date that makes the comparison even more striking. On the 1st of July, 2017, what would have been Princess Diana's 56th birthday, a private service was held at her graveside to rededicate the site. William attended. Catherine was there. Harry also took part, alongside 2 of the Wales children, while the Archbishop of Canterbury led the service. Not a single photograph from that occasion was ever released, not one image. The gathering was carefully planned to remain completely private, and it stayed that way. Nobody questioned it because everyone involved respected the understanding. Harry himself stood on that very ground beside his brother under an arrangement that every single person honoured. 9 years later, he walked the same route with a camera present, and by Thursday afternoon, those images had become public. This is also the same man who has spent years arguing that other people built careers and businesses around the memory of his mother. Books, documentaries, courtroom battles, a Netflix series, a memoir. The central complaint has consistently been that people turned Diana's story into something they could profit from. Harry was the one carrying the flowers. Nobody forced him to do that. And I cannot help noticing just how carefully much of the coverage has chosen to avoid focusing on that particular point. The attention has almost entirely been directed at one person from the very beginning. Every accusation, every headline, and nearly every online debate has centered on Meghan. She shared the post, she selected the photographs, she decided how they were cropped, she wrote the caption that appeared alongside them. Every one of those points is factually accurate, but they also create a remarkably convenient situation because they allow a 41-year-old man to walk down that avenue carrying an armful of lilies and somehow reach the end of the conversation as though he had no real part in it. Harry is not anyone's hostage, and he is certainly not just a passenger in events that involve him. He stood on that island, appeared in that photograph, and carried those flowers with his own hands. That happened on ground he once devoted an entire chapter to describing. Whatever agreement had been made with his uncle before the visit took place, Harry was standing there the moment that understanding no longer remained completely private. Piers Morgan did not even write a lengthy column about it. Instead, he left a single word beneath the Instagram post: privacy. Whether people agree with him or not, it was difficult to miss the point he was making. Now, I want to place two dates next to each other because once you notice the timing, it becomes surprisingly difficult to ignore. On Wednesday, the 22nd of July, the Prince and Princess of Wales released a new portrait of their eldest son to mark his 13th birthday. It was taken on the steps of Kensington Palace, a simple family photograph, warm, ordinary, and exactly what many people expected. Then came Thursday, the 23rd of July. 11 photographs appeared online from Montecito. Just one day separated those two moments. That was the entire gap. And there is something else worth pointing out, because a lot of discussion online has headed in a completely different direction. Many people have insisted the timing revolved around promoting a product launch, that jam, honey, or wine somehow explained everything. Yet that timeline does not really fit. The lavender honey had already gone on sale roughly 3 weeks earlier, and by then the launch had largely come and gone. So the timing seems to point away from a shop and toward a birthday instead. Everyone can reach their own conclusions about that. Which brings me to what may be the most unusual part of the entire story, highlighted by a royal writer who has been following this situation closely for the past year. The very same 2-week period shown in those photographs, with the swimming pool, the Beagle, the seaside restaurant, and the smiling moments over glasses of red wine, was also described by the Sussex camp as an incredibly difficult time. There were statements that appeared and were later withdrawn. There was an ongoing disagreement over security arrangements involving the British government. We were told the family had travelled separately because being together was considered unsafe. Harry was reportedly described as deeply emotional during a phone call, while Meghan was said to be experiencing great sadness. Then, only 3 weeks later, those exact same weeks appeared online as a carefree golden summer. The royal writer's interpretation has stood out more than almost anything else written about the story. In his view, the photo carousel was never really trying to deny that those difficult events had happened. Instead, he argued that it simply refused to treat those facts as the central issue in the first place. That observation certainly makes people stop and think. It is difficult to debate with someone who is not really trying to argue the same point. Now, this is where my own view starts to differ from much of what has been said throughout the week. The repeated claim has been that the site is sacred and that Diana would have been deeply upset by what happened there. I have listened to thoughtful, reasonable people say that with complete confidence, yet one question keeps coming back to me every single time. Just wait a second. Some of us actually remember watching Diana herself navigate the public spotlight. To understand why this debate has become so intense, it helps to look back at how Diana herself chose to communicate with the public. She worked with Andrew Morton through an intermediary, helping tell the story of her marriage in a book that changed everything. Then came the famous Panorama interview, an hour inside Kensington Palace that shook the royal family from top to bottom. There were also the photographs from the yacht in the south of France, the gym pictures, and other carefully discussed moments that suggest the real story was always far more complicated than the fairy tale many people remember. Diana understood the power of a camera better than almost anyone ever to hold that position. She knew exactly how a single image could shape public opinion, and she used that understanding during a period when she felt isolated from the institution around her. Whether people approved or not, the strategy worked, and it remains one of the biggest reasons conversations about her continue decades later. So it is difficult to accept the idea that the existence of a photograph alone would automatically have offended her. On that subject, it is worth remembering that the resting place itself has been at the centre of commercial controversy before, and the criticism was not directed at Meghan Markle. It was Charles Spencer who faced it. Back in 1998, Althorp opened to paying visitors on Princess Diana's birthday, with tickets priced at £15.75. Elton John publicly criticised the decision, calling the entire arrangement extremely tacky. He even argued that it had reached the point where Diana's name could end up attached to almost anything, right down to a jar of margarine. Curiously, that chapter rarely becomes part of today's discussion. Here is another fact that complicates the argument that a royal resting place should never, under any circumstances, be photographed. In September 2022, Buckingham Palace itself released an official photograph showing the late Queen Elizabeth II's ledger stone at Windsor. The image came directly from the palace. That alone suggests there is no universal rule forbidding every photograph connected to a royal resting place. Instead, what appears to exist is one very specific understanding surrounding one very specific island. According to Charles Spencer's own explanations, those measures were put in place because of repeated attempts to reach Diana's resting place, not because the location was governed by some ancient tradition. That distinction matters more than many people acknowledge. So let me put my own view as clearly as I can, because this has been the thought staying with me ever since Thursday. My impression is not that Meghan broke Diana's rules. Rather, many commentators argue that she adopted a style of public communication often associated with Diana herself. The carefully controlled release, a photograph that appears spontaneous while still conveying a particular message and allowing the images to speak while everyone else debates their meaning. Everybody else ends up doing the talking for you. That approach certainly did not begin in Montecito. Many people trace similar media strategies back to the early 1990s, when Diana, facing enormous personal pressures, turned to carefully managed public storytelling after feeling she had few other options. Whether people view that as effective or controversial, it undeniably shaped history, and decades later, some observers continue drawing comparisons. If you want to understand why some commentators believe the Prince of Wales may have found the photographs deeply uncomfortable, they argue it reaches beyond the lake, beyond the missing bridge, and beyond the flowers themselves. Their view is that William spent his childhood watching the consequences of this very style of media strategy unfold in real time. He experienced those years firsthand before choosing, throughout much of his adult life, to communicate in a noticeably different way despite intense public attention. From that perspective, some believe seeing echoes of a familiar approach would naturally carry emotional weight because of everything those earlier experiences represented. Call it nothing more than a disagreement over taste if you wish. Others see something far more personal, a sense that an unmistakable style of communication closely associated with his mother's public life has once again become part of the conversation, leaving her legacy interpreted through a different voice. Everything comes back to the water and to the man standing on the other side of it, still saying nothing. One royal commentator made what may be the most straightforward observation of the entire debate, yet it has received surprisingly little attention. His argument was simple. If the photographs were taken at Althorp, then they were taken on Spencer family property. If Charles Spencer gave permission, then there was no trespass, no secret operation, and no dramatic security breach. It would simply have been Harry visiting his late mother's family estate with his children, followed later by photographs being shared online. If that is what happened, the controversy becomes much smaller. But that raises another question. If permission was given, why not simply say so? A brief statement could have ended much of the speculation days ago. Instead, there has been complete silence. There is another possibility that has been circulating for some time. Reports have suggested a future project connected to the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death may already be in development. Some royal commentators believe the visit could have been connected to that larger plan, although this has not been publicly confirmed. If that theory has any truth behind it, Charles Spencer's silence may not necessarily reflect anger. It may simply mean he has chosen not to comment. For now, that leaves two possible versions of events. Either permission was given, making the visit entirely authorized, or it was not, and the photographs became public without that expectation. Until someone directly involved speaks, neither explanation can be confirmed. There is still one question that stands above all the others. Who actually took the photographs? Days have passed. Countless articles have been published, yet no clear answer has emerged. That missing detail continues to fuel discussion, and eventually, someone may decide to explain exactly what happened. Now I want to hear what you think. Did Charles Spencer approve the photographs before they were taken, or do you believe something else happened? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all, and I'm genuinely interested in hearing your perspective. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got more royal stories and detailed analysis on the way, and you won't want to miss the next one.